how much you motivate. Let's go look new motivate story.
The algorithm of motivation. In the heart of Silicon Valley, nestled between faceless towers of glass and steel, was the headquarters of Neuron Forge, a behavioral science startup turned tech behemoth. What began as a research project between graduate students at Stanford had become a billion-dollar enterprise. Their product, Pulse, an AI-driven motivation engine used in schools, corporations, even government programs. It didn't just track performance, it nudged people, rewarded, penalized, optimized. No one understood motivation better than the architects of Pulse, except perhaps one person. Dr. Mira Leong had been one of the original visionaries. A cognitive psychologist with a defiant streak, she had co-authored the early algorithms that would become the bones of Pulse. But when the company pivoted, when it became clear they were favoring extrinsic motivators, points, punishments, public rankings, she walked away. No amount of productivity, she once said in a leaked internal memo, is worth a world where people forget how to want things for themselves. Now, 5 years later, Mira sat in a small lecture hall at UC Berkeley, sipping burnt coffee from a paper cup. She taught Motivation Psychology 401, Theories and Applications. Her students knew her as the rebel who turned her back on fortune, but few understood why. She clicked to the next slide on the projector. Bold letters read, Intrinsic versus Extrinsic, the 21st Century Tug of War. Who can tell me what Deci and Ryan proposed with self-determination theory? She asked. A quiet buzz filled the room until a hand raised. Lucas, a quiet but sharp student who always sat at the edge of the third row. They believed we're naturally driven to learn and grow, he said. That real motivation comes when we feel autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Exactly, Mira nodded. Compare that to most systems today, school grades, employee bonuses, fitness apps. What kind of motivators are those? Extrinsic, the class chorused. Right. And what happens when the rewards go away? Another student, Maya, chimed in. The behavior stops. People don't feel it's theirs anymore. Precisely, Mira said. We're raising generations to chase carrots, not meaning. She paused. There was passion in her voice, just enough to betray how personal this still was. After class, Lucas lingered. Dr. Leong, I've been playing with a prototype. It's like Pulse, but different. I tried to integrate SDT principles into it. No points, no punishments, just reflection prompts, autonomy scaffolding, and self-tracking tools. Would you take a look? Mira blinked. She hadn't expected this today. You built this yourself? Well, with some friends. We're in the engineering for impact track. We call it Torch. Mira stared at him for a beat, then smiled faintly. You know that name used to mean something. Lucas nodded. It still can. That night, Mira couldn't sleep. She sat on the balcony of her tiny Oakland apartment, Torch loaded on her tablet. The interface was elegant. No leaderboards. No smiley badges. Instead, it asked, what do you want to grow toward this week? What obstacles feel like they're not yours to own? What small action can you take that feels like a choice, not a task? It wasn't a to-do list. It was a mirror. She felt something stir inside her. A faint echo of the idealism she had buried years ago. Motivation, real motivation, was never about compliance. It was about meaning. It was about people feeling like their choices mattered. She opened her old notebooks, the ones she hadn't touched since her last year at Neuron Forge. Pages filled with scribbled ideas, half-formed models of intrinsic feedback systems, all left unfinished. Mira turned back to her screen and typed an email to Lucas. Let's talk. This might be worth finishing. They met again that weekend in a sunlit co-working space off Telegraph Avenue. The building smelled faintly of espresso and dry erase markers. Lucas brought two of his collaborators, Nina, a UX designer with an eye for emotional nuance, and Elijah, a backend engineer who spoke in API calls and metaphors. Mira brought a small, battered notebook. Inside were the blueprints of a different future, one she had once believed in. I need to be clear about something, she said, looking at the three of them. You're swimming upstream. The market wants dopamine hits. Leaders want results. If you try to sell intrinsic motivation, you'll be told it doesn't scale. Lucas didn't flinch. We're not building this to sell it. We're building it because we're tired of being gamified to death. Elijah leaned forward. We think the future doesn't need louder alarms. It needs deeper echoes. Nina nodded. People are exhausted from being optimized. They want to be seen. That line hit Mira like a quiet punch to the chest. She opened her notebook, turned it toward them. Okay, she said. Then let's build something that treats motivation as a relationship, not a manipulation. For the next 6 hours, they worked like mad scientists, sketching behavioral flows, integrating autonomy supports, and mapping user journeys that didn't end in gold stars. Mira dusted off theories she had shelved: flow theory, expectancy value theory, Deci and Ryan's SDT components, autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Torch evolved before their eyes. By midnight, they had a rough working model. Torch version 2.0 didn't just track behaviors. It listened. It asked users to name their own values and set goals that resonated with those values, not their boss's quotas or society's benchmarks. It helped them break goals into meaningful choices. It never said you should. It asked what matters to you today. They built a feedback system rooted in internal checkpoints, how progress felt, not how it looked. Let's pilot it, Lucas said, eyes bright. See how people actually use it. Mira hesitated, then nodded. I know just the place. 2 weeks later, they stood inside Roosevelt High, an underfunded public school in East Oakland where Mira volunteered on weekends. She had pitched the app to Principal Sosa, a weary but idealistic educator with a soft spot for experimentation. He gave them a green light for a small pilot. 2 classrooms, 30 juniors, no pressure. The students were skeptical at first. No grades? No points? What's the catch? One of them, Janelle, asked. There's no catch, Mira said. This is yours. You set the goals. You decide the path. Janelle squinted. So like self-therapy? More like self-direction, Lucas said. This app won't make you do anything, but it will ask you why. They distributed tablets with Torch preloaded and let the students explore. That week, something strange happened. No push notifications, no reminders. And yet, the students kept logging in. They wrote about wanting to get better at writing music, or helping their siblings with homework, or just showing up on time. They rated their days not with emojis, but with words like focused, tired, connected, lost. The app didn't judge, it reflected. And in reflection, some of them started to shift. Janelle, the skeptic, started journaling daily. This thing's weird, she told her friend. It doesn't even care if I do stuff. But it makes me think about why I don't. By the end of the second week, over 80% of the students had created their own weekly goals and shared them with peers, not to compete, but to stay accountable. The classroom felt different, lighter. Principal Sosa stopped Mira in the hallway. What did you do? He asked. They're not just complying. They're owning it. Mira smiled. I didn't do anything. They did. On the drive home that night, Mira felt the lump in her throat she hadn't felt in years. It was the ache of purpose, not the performative kind that companies market, but the quiet kind that grows from within. She thought about Pulse, how it had gone global, how it now powered behavior incentives in 6 major nations, how it made people more productive but no more fulfilled. And then she thought of Janelle, a single student, journaling, thinking, choosing. That was the revolution. 6 months later, Torch was no longer just a student project. It had spread, quietly, virally, first to a few schools in Oakland, then to mentoring nonprofits in Chicago, then to a progressive HR department in a mid-sized Seattle startup. They didn't advertise. They didn't sell data. Torch grew the way real ideas do, person to person, heart to heart. Still, Mira knew it wouldn't stay quiet forever. And she was right. One Tuesday morning, a formal envelope landed in her campus mailbox. Inside, an invitation from Neuron Forge's executive board. We are reevaluating the long-term architecture of Pulse. Your recent work with Torch has caught our attention. We'd like to discuss a potential integration or acquisition. She stared at the letter for a long time. Later that day, she met with the team at their now regular workspace above a local print shop. When she showed them the letter, silence fell. They're scared, Elijah muttered. Or intrigued, Nina offered. Lucas folded his arms. Or they just want to swallow us whole. Mira nodded slowly. Either way, this is a crossroad. If we walk in, we risk becoming a feature in someone else's machine. If we say no, we stay grassroots, but with limited reach. Do we trust them? Nina asked. Mira didn't answer. Instead, she said, let's go see. The meeting was held in a high-rise suite overlooking downtown San Francisco. Polished glass, lattes on trays, executives, and tailored ambition. At the head of the table sat Felix Ramirez, Neuron Forge's chief strategy officer. Mira had known him once, back when he still asked questions instead of forecasting answers. "Dr. Leong," he said, standing to greet her. "And team, thank you for coming." He gestured toward the wall, where a screen showed charts and engagement graphs. "We admire what you've built." Torch taps into a segment of the population Pulse has never reached, those disillusioned with gamification, with reward loops. "You've made people care again." Mira said nothing. Felix continued, "We're not here to shut you down. We're here to scale you up. Fold Torch's core functions into Pulse. Keep the philosophy. Keep your team. Just connect it to something bigger." Lucas shifted. "And what happens when the metrics start slipping? When users don't click enough? Will you still let it breathe?" Felix's smile thinned. "That's where we find balance. Torch brings soul. Pulse brings infrastructure. Together, it dies." Mira cut in softly. "Torch isn't an add-on. It's a rebellion. It doesn't need Pulse's muscles. It needs protection from them." A heavy pause filled the room. Then, for the first time in the meeting, Mira leaned forward. "You built something powerful, but you used it to tell people they're never enough. Pulse optimizes productivity. Torch reminds people why they want to show up at all. They are not the same." Felix looked at her for a long time. Then, quietly, "You won't reconsider?" Mira rose. "No, but thank you. This confirms we're on the right path." Weeks passed. The rejection went public. Tech blogs called her a fool. Investors scoffed. But people, the right people, took notice. Torch found unlikely allies, educators, therapists, small companies with big values. Mira was invited to speak at conferences, not about tech, but about motivation, about meaning. Her lectures weren't about innovation. They were about remembering what we already knew. One night, as she walked through Lake Merritt Park, Mira got a voice message from Janelle. "Hey, Dr. Leong. Just wanted to say, I'm applying to college. Never thought I would, honestly. But that app you gave us, it didn't tell me what to do. It helped me figure out why I might want to do something. That mattered. Just thanks." Mira listened twice, then once more. She sat on a bench, watching ripples in the water. Motivation was never about the finish line. It was about the flame. The next day, a new version of Torch launched. Torch version 3.0, the choice engine. Its onboarding was simple. "We don't have rewards. We don't have points. We have questions. And you have the answers. Let's find them, together." The app spread further. It didn't dominate headlines. It didn't become a unicorn, but it became something more rare. It became trusted. And across classrooms, homes, offices, even prisons, wherever people had been told to conform, comply, compete, a quiet light flickered. People began to ask not just, "What should I do?" but "What do I want to grow toward?" In a world addicted to results, Torch offered something different. A return to meaning. A quiet revolution, lit from within.